Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaste. Welcome to the 16th session of our course Yoga and Positive Psychology for Managing Career and Life. Today's session is focused on Pranayama as the intervention for managing self, and we have already discussed that managing self is deeply connected to managing career as well. You can recall that we are looking at the interventions according to the different layers of self. So, in the previous sessions we looked at ahar, that is food, and asanas, that is postures, yogic postures, as the interventions at annamaya kosh, as the physical aspect of self. Today in the same sequence we are going to look at pranayama, which is intervention at pranamaya kosh, as the pranic level of self, and in the sessions to come we will look at the interventions at manomaya kosh and vijnanamaya kosh. In the last session you might recall that we talked about asanas for the people with the different Ayurvedic constitution. There are different asanas are suitable for people with the vata constitution, people with the pitta predominant constitution, or kapha predominant constitution. Those who are registered for the NPTEL course, they must have received a assessment link. Most of the registered participants, I hope, would have taken that assessment and must have got some idea what is their predominant prakriti or vikriti in terms of vata, pitta and kapha, what is the suitable food for them, and looking at this session they can also figure out what are the asanas most suitable for their prakriti. Today we are talking about pranayama. Let us look at some of the basic, the most fundamental aspects of pranayama. Why we are studying pranayama as the intervention? We are studying pranayama as an intervention because it promotes emotional stability at the spiritual level. It prepares us for the higher levels of yoga and positivity in life. Pranayama has a very unique position in the Ashtanga Yoga. Yam, Niyam, Asan, they are clearly Bahir Yoga, means you can observe them very clearly. Pranayama is also Bahir Yoga, but it is deeply connected with the Antar Yoga, which is Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan and Samadhi. It is linked to breath. It is linked to breath, and breath is a very interesting activity, very intriguing activity in our body. You may say that what is so intriguing about breath, that's probably the most fundamental aspect of life. Yes, that is very fundamental aspect of life, but you know, it is not involuntary activity. Though we cannot live without breathing, but it is not involuntary activity. It is actually a voluntary activity. So, we know that nervous system has autonomous nervous system, which has sympathetic and parasympathetic part, and there is a voluntary aspect of the nervous system. This activity, the call breathing, it connects voluntary and involuntary aspect of nervous system. So, it sits in the middle. It is a kind of a linkage of the human self, or for that matter any organization, any organism with the outside world. So, pranayama also is a science which deals with the physical breath, and it also it is also about the subtle energy which flows with this breath. We all know what is breath. Now there is another variable in the equation, that is prana. What is prana? So, if you ask what is prana to a yoga teacher, or you look at the answer in the science of yoga, it is said to be a life energy. So, pran is the life energy that is carried within our breath, and it is the bridge between mind and the body. So, pran is that which connects subjective and objective, mind and body, and pranayam is regulation of that pran. So, pran is can be loosely translated as the vital force or vital energy, and that connects subjective and objective aspect of life, that connects body and mind. And we all know that definition of mind which we have looked at in the previous sessions doesn't identify mind as a localized phenomena. It is it's an information, it's a regulation system, and it is an embodied system, not localized to one part of the body. That which connects mind and body is called pran, and regulation of that pran is called pranayama. The earliest references of breath and prana are found in Upanishad, in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, and in a very old text, Swara Sarvodaya. In the Tattri Upanishad, it is said, conflict between the Vijnanamaya Kosh and Manomaya Kosh, that is intellect and the instinct, causes disturbance in the subtle life energy or prana. And by consciously breathing, by observing our breathing, we can regulate prana. And in this way, we can resolve the conflict between the intellect and instinct. That is a teaching in the Tattri Upanishad. Hatha Yoga Pradipika, being the text of yoga itself, elaborates this idea in much greater depth. So, what it says, that it's a solution for the imbalance in prana. It also recognizes that imbalance happens in the pranic level, and the solution to address that imbalance is through slow and deep breathing. It has been said that when the mental state is disturbed, the life energy or prana gets unbalanced, and this leads to irregular breath. Hence, to regulate the mental state, the yoga practitioner should regulate the breath. So, Hatha Yoga Pradipika, as it is said to be the text of about 11th century, it is much more sophisticated, much more elaborate in terms of what practice to be followed. We also remember that Hatha Yoga Pradipika enumerate 84 asanas. So, very elaborate description of the practices is given in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. There is another very old text. There is one similar text called Swara Siddhant, and this text which is being referred here is called Swara Sarvodayam, that gives most elaborate explanation of breath and how it is connected to our life energies and how it is connected to the different types of activities of life. So, it explains that Swara system uses awareness of the nasal cycle. So, the distinction between the Chandra Nadi, Surya Nadi, right nostril breathing and left nostril breathing, that distinction is the basis. That is one of the fundamental tenets, and it explains things in great detail. What it says, that a Swara system uses the awareness of the nasal cycle and rhythm in the subtle body to help us understand when our mind field is suitable to particular activities. It actually explains that right nadi or the right nostril breathing increases or energizes our sympathetic nervous system. It does not use the word sympathetic nervous system, but it explains that right nostril breathing or right is responsible for enhancing our blood pressure, enhancing our temperature and the bodily activities within. Left nostril breathing reduces the temperature, reduces the speed of the breathing and has a calming effect. Since this has a calming effect and Chandra, moon, is connected to, and it symbolizes the calming aspect of self. It is called Chandranadi, and Surya Nadi, which is connected to the right nostril and right nostril breathing. It is related to the sympathetic system as mentioned earlier. That is called Surya Nadi. When Chandranadi is on, when Chandranadi is active, activities related to imagination, working with the space, meditation, those things are useful when the Chandranadi is active. When Surya Nadi is active, more active engagements, some action, outside work, solving some mathematical problems, these are best done whenever Surya Nadi is active. Likewise, it explains so many activities in great detail. So, very interesting science is there behind the breathing itself, behind the nasal cycle, and that is deeply connected to pranayama. Or we can also say it is a bedrock of the pranayama. So, there is a chapter in the fundamentals of the alternative and complementary medicine in the 4th edition. Currently, the 6th edition is running. This chapter on the vital energy starts with a quote by Carl Jung. What it says, that physical events can be looked at in two ways, from the mechanistic and from the energetic point of view. And from this quote, this chapter starts and elaborate on the idea of vitality, idea of life energies in various cultures. It gives the example for, if I remember correctly, at least 17-18 cultures, and what are the correlates of pran exist in those cultures. These are few examples. For like in the ancient Egypt, there is a concept of ka, which is very similar to notion of prana. In the Judaism, rock is the notion which is very similar to prana. In Japan, there is a notion of ki, that is reflection of the vital energy, which is similar to prana. In Maori culture, the name of prana is also Maori. So, you can say, you can see the similarity of the Maori and Maori, which is the culture developed in contemporary place called New Zealand. That is also there. This concept is also there in that culture. Then there are some cultures which have much more sophisticated understanding about this life energy. So, they not only talk about the life energy, they also talk about the channels through which this life energy flows. So, in the Tibetan tradition, it is called lung and sta. Lung is the energy, sta is the channel through which this energy flows. In the Chinese culture, very old culture, it mentions about Qi and Jinglo. That is again the synonymous of energy, life energy, and the channel through which it flows. And in the Greece also, there are terms like pneuma and phlebi. Pneuma is a reflection of energy, and phlebi is the channel through which it runs within our body. So, you can see that notion of pran may look elusive or very subtle, but it exists in almost all cultures. There are many other examples on this slide. We have mentioned only these 5-6 examples, but this chapter, anyone who is interested to look at the cross-cultural aspect of life energy and or pranayama, they must look at this chapter.